justices decided today on two major decisions related to immigration and climate. The conservative majority ruling to end the Remain in Mexico policy with a 5-4 opinion. Justice Brett Kavanaugh siding with the liberal justices to end the Trump-era policy that requires asylum seekers, mainly from Central and South America, to either be detained in the U.S. or sent to Mexico to wait in camps for their asylum claims to actually be reviewed. The court also ruled to limit the EPA's power to regulate carbon emissions from power plants, an outcome experts and activists worry will be a devastating blow to the ongoing climate crisis and a major defeat to the Biden administration. Joining me now, ABC's senior national correspondent Terry Moran, also our contributors Donna Brazil and Maria Elena Salinas. Terry, of course, let's start with you. Remain in Mexico policy. Let's just talk about the significance of Justice Kavanaugh and his opinion.
Justice Kavanaugh and Chief Justice Roberts joining the liberals, finding for President Biden's authority to rescind, to reverse President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. The states of Texas and Missouri had sued to stop that reversal, saying that the president had violated the Immigration Naturalization Act. The problem with this opinion is, though, it's not that sweeping. It barely finds that President Biden has the authority to reverse President Trump. And in fact, in the opinion, Chief Justice Roberts kind of draws a roadmap as to how other litigants, he says the states aren't the right ones, might stop President Biden from reversing it. So we may not have seen the last of it, but it is an affirmation that President Biden has authority in foreign affairs to do a lot in immigration, and especially with the Remain in Mexico, where you got to have negotiations with a foreign country. That's for the president, is what the opinion says.
And Maria Elena, critics, of course, call the Remain in Mexico policy inhumane, say it puts asylum seekers in dangerous and squalid conditions while they wait for their claims to be reviewed. And that can take quite a long time. Let's talk about these camps, what you know, what they are like, what you've seen, and the immediate impact on those that are waiting for asylum.
Well, they're unsanitary, they're dangerous. Remember, there were entire families with children who had to live and sleep under tents for so long. So not only do they lack sanitary conditions, but during the pandemic, there was no way to social distance or constantly sanitize their surroundings. During the pandemic, it was very difficult for them to go out and find work, to buy food and other necessities for their families. Remember, many of these people are from other countries, so it's difficult for them to navigate a place that they don't know. There are a limited amount of shelters that have been housing migrants, especially asylum seekers that rely on the generosity of donors and volunteers on both sides of the border. In these shelters, you know, they house them, they feed them, and they kind of help them, guide them through how they can get documents that they will need to present their asylum case. So, you know, what it means for asylum seekers is that they will be able to present their cases now, although they still have to wait for them to be reviewed to see if they're deemed credible.
And so, Maria Elena, what does this mean? I mean, to follow up on what Terry said, for diplomatic relations now between the U.S. and Mexico.
Well, it's a relief for both countries, really, because although Mexico has agreed to accept asylum seekers during all this time, it was a burden for local authorities there who don't have the means to, you know, to keep up with the day-to-day needs of the migrants and also to protect them from criminal organized crime. When the Biden administration attempted to end the policy that had to be reinstated because of that lawsuit from Texas, they had to renegotiate with Mexico. That's what they called MPP 2.0. In this latest agreement, Mexico asked to make sure that asylum seekers have access to legal aid and that their cases are attended within 180 days. So that's going to be a challenge. You know, the process has been very slow. So far this year, less than 1% of asylum seekers, or asylum cases, I should say, have been resolved. The main obstacle is the lack of resources, not enough space to detain migrants once their asylum cases are in the process, and not enough judges to decide their cases. You know, how fast they will move really depends on how prepared they are to handle these cases. Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas has been saying that they're ready, so we will soon see just how ready they are.
And Donna, you know, this wraps up the Supreme Court's most consequential term in decades. With the recent ruling to overturn Roe versus Wade, what do these rulings tell us about future cases?
Well, it says that the conservative radical right majority will continue to try to roll back some of the, not just rights that we have all come to expect, but it will also take us into another bygone era. The ruling today on the EPA, the Environmental Protection Administration, is a setback for those of us who believe that we need governmental intervention. We need government at the table in order to protect our planet and protect our way of life. But this is a court that is drastically changed over the last 2 terms, and I can expect probably more difficult days ahead. I mean, if you just look back at the gun, just recently what they decided in the gun case in New York. Again, a court that is going back, not forward, and clearly not in touch with the American people.
Let's follow up with the climate ruling. Terry, now that the EPA can't regulate emissions, who will?
Well, it's a huge ruling. Donna's right. They're swinging for the fences in these cases, and this is a big ruling. The way that EPA will have to operate now in the wake of this is the old-fashioned way. They'll have to do it power plant by power plant within the fence line, as they say. What they had tried to do was develop a nationwide approach to emissions, greenhouse gas emissions driving climate change, by having a cap and trade across the country. And what the Supreme Court says is you can't do that. That is so big a deal that Congress has to do it. We all know Congress is broken. Congress is broken when it comes to climate change. Congress is broken when it comes to immigration. Congress is broken on any major issue, it seems. And so that has forced President Obama, President Trump, and President Biden to try to find ways to use the executive branch to address these huge problems. Today, the court said when it comes to climate, stop. You got to do it power plant by power plant within the fence line.
So then let me ask you, devastating is what President Biden calls this, what the White House calls this. Devastating to his political career, to midterms, or devastating to the air that we breathe?
Well, it's not great for any president to have a series of losses in the Supreme Court, especially if he isn't able to rally his supporters by saying, hey, I've got a way forward anyway. And we haven't heard that from him on climate at this point. But it shows the lack of something that every other developed country has, a national policy to approach what is a real issue in the world. The climate change deniers are flat earthers at this point. The question is how best, supporting the economy, do we get to a place where we can have a safer and cleaner world? And the Supreme Court basically punted it back to Congress, which is broken.
We're going to actually talk to a doctor who specializes in this, by the way, in just a moment. But Donna, I know while I have you, you definitely want to weigh in on history being made today. The country's first black female justice has now officially been sworn in. You were there when the nomination happened. What was it like to finally see this moment today? And how do you think she is now going to impact cases moving forward?
Well, at last, 233 years. It has taken a long time for us to finally cross this threshold. But we know that the weight of history is not only on her shoulders, but the entire Supreme Court. Their legitimacy is at stake. This is a very important moment. And I was just talking to one of my friends who worked inside the White House on the confirmation battle. And we said, you know, this is one of those moments in our lives where we are glad that we fought so hard to get a black woman on the Supreme Court. She will be able to bring, along with the other justices, the kind of reasoning and the kind of thinking that often you don't hear when you read these oral arguments or when you read the final decision. I'm proud of her. I'm proud of all of her success. I am so grateful that the president kept his commitment, but now the weight of history is on Ketanji Brown-Jackson's shoulders and those of the other justices. I have to also say that I never thought in my lifetime I would see 2 black justices. We do have 2 black justices, 4 women justices. That's also a surprise development. But we know that she enters a court that is clearly making a lot of decisions that will impact us all. And I'm glad that her voice and her reasoning will be part of the future decisions of this Supreme Court of the United States.
And I'll tell you right now, Terry, Maria Elena, and I all shaking our heads, smiling, and agreeing with you. Thank you so much to all of you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.